Welcome everyone. My name is Tiffany. I'm the Tipsy Artist. Today we are painting a beautiful cross with a sunflower and some gorgeous pastel flowers all throughout the arms of the cross. So all of our painting kits come with a beautiful traceable, and I've showed you what it looks like with just the traceable line art here. And I do have a separate tutorial that goes through that process of tracing, but this is what it looks like after it has been traced. And you are welcome to leave it in the look of where it looks like a pencil line, or you can use the permanent marker that comes with our kit and do a little bit of outlining. On this particular design, I wanted to be sure that we kept our trace with the basic iconic shape of the sunflower and the border of the cross, but everything else is very soft in the middle with the floral design. So I went ahead and left that with just the soft pencil line that's in the middle. Also, the background is just pure white. So that makes it really easy for us to go ahead and paint into those shapes, and we don't have to worry about those shapes getting lost. But as we do work in our background, I did want to make sure that this was all kept. So this is how I decided to go ahead and start the process. Some of you may just want a very soft, more translucent watercolor feel to this entire look and presentation. So you're more than welcome to leave it just this soft, more muted pencil line look in the very beginning. You don't have to do any of this hard line work if you do not want to. So that's a little bit of an option. Also, let's go ahead and talk about all the supplies that we have set up today. So we have your paint nearby. Mine's a little bit used, yours will be brand new, but we have that off to the side. Bucket of water, we have our napkins, our brushes, our paint. I always put out a little bit of extra titanium white and black because I paint so much during the day. Also, we've got pencil, Sharpie. I've already used this. We've got our brush set here. So this is my little family of brushes. We've got Mama, then we have Little Buddy, then we have Little Bit. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with the background. I will be getting started with our titanium white. I have some over here, some Mars black. I have a little bit over here because we're going to be mixing up a little bit of some beautiful gray. Also a little bit of some primary cyan blue, a little touch of that. So just a little pea size amount there. And let's see, we also need to mix up some brown. So with our kit here, we do have cadmium orange, so we always have to mix brown with our kit. So I do a little pea size amount of that cadmium orange, and we'll use that here in a moment. But I'm going to go ahead and start with our Mama brush, and we're going to make sure it's just moist. So I'm going to go ahead and dip into the water, go ahead and dab that out a bit. And we're going to mix up a little bit of some light gray. So I'm going to take a nice big touch of that titanium white, little touch of the black. There's our gray. All right, so now let's grab a lot more white because I want that to be quite a bit lighter. I'm going to do just little brush strokes, just vertical, and then horizontal. Looks like I have a little fuzzy or something. Let's take that off. All right, so again, kind of just go back and forth between little short strokes of vertical and then horizontal. And lay that brush more over to the side, parallel to the canvas. Now our cut-in work will be a little bit different. I'm come back in with a little bit more of that charcoal gray. Hold that brush more like a pencil. We're going to use the line edge of the brush to make those little curves around the cross and then the sunflower. And then once we have our cut-in work done, then we'll do a little bit of a soft painterly look into this here. Again, just crisscross it out back and forth. So we're going to do this all the way around the cross here. And while the paint's still wet, we're going to also occasionally add in a little bit of that, just super tiny touches of tiny little bits of blue. So I'll do little touches of that. And then also that brown that I mentioned. So I'm going to do a little mix of that here. Let's grab a little touch of the orange, a little touch of the black. gonna get a more solid concentration to show y'all. I don't really care that it's a little bit muddled with the gray, but just to show you in a pure form, black and orange makes brown, and a lot more orange makes a lighter brown. And then you can add another dollop of the white and make an even lighter brown. So that's kind of fun to dip your brush into and add just kind of here and there as we continue doing this really kind of fun, abstracted look happening through the background. More white. A little bit dark, so I'm going to go and rinse out, dry off, and kind of start fresh here with a bit more of the white. I'll lighten up the mood here a little bit. Right, let's do our cutting. Touches of blue. And you can pick up big sections of the white here and just do, see how it's kind of messy and big, and just push it back and forth. Again, this is just very fun, loose, abstracted, so you don't have to be too careful with it. You do have to be a little bit careful around the cut-in work, but that's about it. Add a little bit of white here, put this around. And just, again, lots of that mixing back and forth. Just kind of crisscross back and forth, just like that. And there's our cut in. And if it's dry brushing a little bit, you can add a little bit of water to it, just to make it flow a little bit more. And again, just kind of crisscross back and forth. Now I'm going to pick up a big dollop of the white and just slightly go back and forth here. And we're going to continue taking this all the way around the cross. Now a little tiny touch of blue. And a little tiny touch of brown. And I have to softly kind of feather in this mix over to the other side. I'm going to continue on with a little bit more of that just crosshatch back and forth. Vertical and then horizontal. Just a little bit more pure white here, big dollop, nice flat stroke. A little touch of brown, a little touch of blue. Soften it out a little bit more. All right, so we've got a great start there. I'm going to go ahead and rinse out and then dry off. Now we're going to use our little buddy brush here to go ahead and do our border, and it is more of like a slate blue, so that's going to be our cobalt, or rather primary cyan blue, white, and you can add a teeny touch of the black there with that. And you can subdue it and make it even more slate if you want to. Add a little bit of water in there to help it flow. Again, this is little buddy. He's the little flat top, and we're going to use him to go into that border that goes all the way around the cross. Just hold the brush like a pencil, and a little bit of water really helps with this. And if your canvas is flat, then you don't have to worry about water runs. And you can see how it's already absorbing into that black, so you don't even really have to worry too much about that hard black line. It's getting painted over, and there's just enough border to make it really nice, almost like a little bit of a shadow. So just mixing up a little bit more of that slate. And we'll just take this all the way around. And if these little turns are a little bit too nerve-wracking to get around with this bigger brush, you can always use your little bit brush to work in around those really tiny little turns. Again, I'm still just using my little buddy. And just hold it like you'd hold a pencil. The soft curves around the shape of this cross. And keep going. Soft curve. All right, so we have a beautiful border now for our cross. All right, go ahead, rinse out, dry off. Now we're still going to be using some of that slate into some of the flower patterns. So again, that is our primary cyan blue, the white, and a little bit of the black. So mix of all those. And I'm going to start using my little bit brush quite a bit now for the rest of this. Add a little bit of water. All right, so this next flower here, a little bit of a deeper blue for contrast. And it's going to come around into this little shape here. And I definitely want it to be a little bit darker so it looks different than the border. Otherwise, you're going to lose that fun border shape. So again, a little bit of a darker blue and soft curves in here to fill this in. I'm going to grab a little bit more of that primary cyan blue. Just make sure we have more of that to play with there. And then right over the top, I'll come back in with some pure white and just do soft little curl strokes right over the top there, right into the center. So again, little soft curls. These are our little petals. And we'll take it in all these different directions, just like that. And so we can work this all the way around here. Where else do we have these little beauties? So I've got another one big in here. So again, a bit more of that darker blue as we get right next to the border so that it is distinctively separated from the border. And we have another one here. So I'm going to start again more with the primary cyan blue. That is our base. And we have a little bit more here. And here. And while I still have my brush loaded up with this, I'm going to be doing a lot more of just all these little sections. So again, just our primary cyan blue. Then I'll touch into the white and go over the top. Again, just a soft curl. We want to still work into it while the brush and the paint is wet in here. So get a nice soft blend between the two. Soft little curls. And it's where the petals go. And just kind of follow the curl of the petal. These are little tiny diagonals and curves back to the little stem. Again, still kind of just working more into that primary cyan blue. Just a little bit of a soft curl to it. And let's pick up a little bit more white. Do a soft little overcoat right over the top. Just kind of echo that same stroke that we just did. All right, so we have a lot of that done. Now we need to switch colors here. So I rinsed out and we're going to go ahead and dry off. Now we're going to work in a little bit of this coral color. So that's going to be our Cadmium Orange. And it's got that hint of that brown, the same brown we mixed up in the very beginning. So we're going to pull that back in a little bit too. So again, it's our Cadmium Orange, a little bit of black, and then a little bit of our white. Right, so that's beautiful. Let's add a little bit of water. That water helps the paint flow into the space. So I'm going to go ahead and just fill this in here. And then we just have a few more little touches of this golden tone, which is it's like a rust. All right, now we're going to go a little bit brighter with our pale yellow. Out. Actually, before I do that, let's touch in a little bit more white on top of this peachy rust color here. And a touch of white over the top. It's going to echo that same shape. We're going to soften it up a little bit. Like soft little parentheses. And you want to do that while the paint's still wet. Really softens it. All right, now let's rinse out again. Let's go back in with our yellow, but we also want to touch a brown with our yellow. So I'm going to touch that brown into it, subdue it a little bit here, and a little bit of white. So again, this is our bright primary yellow. We added a touch of brown to it, that light brown. That brown again, the mix is the orange and the black. You should still have some on your plate. So yellow, brown, a little bit of white here. Then I'm going to do tiny little petals here. And then up here. Little tiny touches into those shapes. And here. So it's like a little bit of a touch and then pull towards the center, touch, pull towards the center. And the shape of the brush does a lot of the work, but more than anything, it's loading the tip of the brush up with paint and then doing a little touch and then pulling into that center. Do a little touch in there too. And then while we're working into yellow, again, primary yellow, let's grab a little bit of our cadmium yellow. And add that in. A little bit of that white. We're going to go ahead and work into that sunflower now. And each petal, using our little bit brush. And if the brush gets too fat filled with paint, you can do a little twirl into the paint that will taper the head of the brush into a nice fine point. And we're going to get that first layer of paint right over the top here. So the stroke feels like parentheses, parentheses, right over the top. And let's grab a little bit more of that cadmium yellow and do some thick textural strokes right over the top in the center, and just kind of pull out. Light touches. Allow little sections of that paint to just kind of rest right on top. I do a real gentle touch and then gently just pull, but I leave a lot of the thickness of the paint just resting right on the surface. So you can see I kind of was picking up big amounts of it and then just barely laying it on so that it's a very thick texture look at the top. So it leaves all that texture on the surface. Let's go ahead and rinse out. We're going to do some of that brown right in the center. So I've still got a little bit brush. We've got our orange nearby and our black. So I'm going to mix up some more dark brown here. And we're going to do a little bit of a tap, tap, tap in that circle. And fill that in. Tap, tap, tap. Nice and textural there. And then a little bit of some light texture in a little donut shape is what we're going to do next. I'm going to go right back into that light yellow, and we're going to do a little donut right here in the center while the brown's still wet, so it's a nice soft blend between the two. Go back into that brown, retexture that, soften it up a little bit. Now we're going to do a nice little twirl into the paint, nice fine point, and we're just going to lightly kind of go around those petals. That adds a little bit of shadow in between the two, each little petal. A nice little taper. Twirl the brush, make sure nice and thin, and you can kind of go around. Light drag in between those little petals here. We've got some really fun texture happening now. All right. Very pretty. Okay, so now we're going to do a little bit of that green that flows through the cross now. So we need sage. So I'm going to take some cadmium green. And this will be cadmium green and white, and a little touch of black. So that's a light green to start with, but again, I want that gray, hint of gray in there for a more subdued sage green. More white. And then I've got some water so it's a bit more fluid, easier to spread on the canvas. Nice little twirl. Twirl the head of the brush into the paint. Now we have lots of fun little leaves to paint in. So they have a little point at the tip, and then a little parentheses. And again, little point and then fullness to the leaf. Remember, you can do a little bit of white right over the top. Echo that same stroke, little soft curve. Let's start with that sage again. Soft curves, keep it dark initially. And then let's come in with that white right over the top. While the paint's still wet, you'll get a soft blend between the two. And a little bit of white right over the top. Soft blend. Let's go dark with the sage again. And then let's pick up some of that white, just kind of softly echo that same stroke and do a little bit of that white right over the top. All right, so we have a really pretty look. Now I'm going to go back in and do little touches to fill in the center of the flowers. All right, so right in here we've got little tiny black dots, and I barely take a little touch of black, so just touch gently into it, and we're just going to tap in little tiny little black dots in the center of this little flower here, just like that. And then this one, same thing, little tiny black dots right over the top. And then here. Just tiny little taps in the center of those flowers. If you wear little tiny sunflowers, almost like little sunflowers, they have a little bit of this little black right in the center too. Come back in with a little bit of white over some of those too, so they're not too dramatic. And do little tiny patches of that soft sage green. All right, and then finishing touches, of course, you can come back in. If you have any overlap, you can kind of tidy up your border again if you need just a little bit of tidying up here to help finish that off. If you have any flowers that kind of went over the border. But we are looking really great here. Looks awesome. And I'm happy with it. I think I can go ahead and just call this done. So our final step would be to go ahead and sign our masterpiece. Now you're welcome to paint it on with a little bit brush and a little bit of black. I prefer to use the permanent marker that comes with the kit. I just make sure that the paint is dry, or else the wet paint can ruin the permanent marker. So it's nice and dry here. So I can go ahead and just sign my masterpiece here. Ta-da! We are done. All right, it was so much fun painting with y'all today. Great work, you did a beautiful job. And again, if you are just watching and you want to have fun doing this, all the supplies that you need are on our website at tipsyartist.com. And if you have trouble finding it, just shoot us an email and we can send you the direct link. But we have all the supplies you need, and we make it really fun and easy with a Traceable as well. But y'all have a beautiful day. We love painting with y'all. And We'll see you again very, very soon. I know I've got one more painting coming up where I'm going to be painting a red barn. So I'm super excited about that. But we'll see you soon. Much love to y'all. Toodles.